Hold on to your butts.
Let's get it. Shake it like understand who I is. Not that me ain't gon' do it like this. Pop your head, you get my shit, but I'm on my shit. I ain't no shit. I'm who I is.
All right, welcome back for another episode of TDG. I am your host, Sean, and tonight I have a friend of mine, Jackie, with me. And today we're going to be discussing does the gender gap exist? Jackie, you able to hear us okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me good?
Yep, everything's
All right.
just fine. All right, so how you doing today, Jackie?
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. So why don't you let
Good.
all the folks know where you're calling in from?
I am calling from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
All right, so you're Canadian. All right, cool. And what's your status? What's your status, Jackie? Married, single,
I am married.
married. And how long you been married for?
10 years.
It's a long time. Made it past the 5 year hump.
The 7-year itch and all, yep.
Okay, good, good. So we're gonna kind of just jump right into things as far as the topic of tonight. And so we originally spoke about this. I don't know, was it a week ago? About the gender gaps. You had some questions for me, and I was pretty much explaining to you, you know, why gender gap actually isn't a thing and why it doesn't exist. So, Jackie, if you can recall about our conversation, what was your first question that you asked me, or one of your first questions that you asked me?
I think what I asked, the very first question was, do you think that good-looking women have more opportunities than good-looking men?
In what sense? I don't remember how I answered that one.
Um, I guess if we're just talking like I guess like the beautiful people, right? So the one like do women have more opportunities than men? I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, don't you think so? Because who's more willing to help a? Pretty much everyone's willing to help a beautiful girl, a beautiful woman. You know, someone who's attractive. Don't you think?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
typically someone who's attractive gets a lot of opportunities that us regular normal people don't typically get just because the way they look.
Hmm.
So knowing that, yes, beautiful people do tend to get better opportunities than, like I said, an average person does. So after that one, 'cause I'm still trying to play catch up here. Sorry about my little delays here, but you got to help me out a little bit, Jackie, until I can catch up
I'm
with
trying to
you.
follow the conversation too, I guess. So, okay. I don't know if I can get out of the window and not read anything. Um, we did talk about the pay wage gap. Um, and so you were explaining to me one of the examples you gave were I'm in marketing admin job,
Mhm.
and you looked up what a garbage man makes.
In Canada.
Yeah, specifically in Alberta or at least in Calgary, just to make it relevant. Um, so so you're saying that I went to school for 4 years to get my degree. I incurred all this debt just to um, be able to have opportunities uh, in the corporate world, whereas I could also have easily gone for labor jobs and make just as much money and not have to spend 4 years in school and incur all the debt. But women are more likely to go after office jobs versus labor jobs. So in that sense, there isn't technically a wage gap.
But when you came to me, you thought there was an age gap. What made you think that?
Well, if we're thinking of if we want to really compare like apples to apples, right? Like
Hmm.
let's say a man with the exact same credentials as me, exact same um, education and experience, everything. Um, it has been said that the male will still typically get paid more than the female.
Hmm. Now,
How much more is I'm not sure.
right. So there is actually a gender pay gap, but it's not a gender pay gap that everyone thinks it is because we'll just keep it simple. We'll say a
Mm-hmm.
man, for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 70 cents or 80. We'll call it 80 cents. But
Mm-hmm.
it isn't that simple because there are rules, at least here in America. I'm pretty sure it's in other, first world countries that have laws that state that they cannot pay a woman less just because she's a female or a woman. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
so. Basically, everyone's privy to equal opportunities, just not equal outcomes. Now, what also gets factored into that gender pay gap is women. They are the ones that they have more, they're more apt to use their personal days or for their health days, for their monthly days, as we spoke about. Some women don't, some
Mm-hmm.
women do, but a job knows that they're going to take days off and they're not going to be there for those issues. On top of that, most women are going to have kids, so there's going to be childcare issues as well. um, Even before when the kids will be born or before the kid's born, going for doctor's visits. After the kid's born, typically the woman wants to stay home for, what is it? For us, I think it's 13 weeks. I'm not sure what it is in Canada, um, but that's time off that
We
the
get
woman.
a we get a year off.
What? Oh wow! Um,
Yeah.
so you guys have pretty much free healthcare. I know you guys pay for it through your taxes, but to us, it's basically free healthcare, and you also get a
Yeah.
year off for having a child.
Yes.
So let me ask you, I don't know if you know or not, but is it a year off per child? Like say you have like stair stepper kids, like after the 9 months, is it even possible? Hmm.
So I think it goes off of so you get 52 weeks, and then I think technically how it would work is you would have to work like another year, and then you would get another year off if you decided to have another kid.
So pretty much a woman can be off if she had three kids back to back for 3 years concurrently and still have a job.
Hmm. Yeah, technically they would like the company would still have to hold her position. They would hire someone like to cover like on contract, um, but they would then have to offer that position back to the original woman before offering full time to the contract person. Because I know in some cases, some women do decide to just not come back.
Mhm.
So in that case, the person who's contracting on the maternity leave will basically get that position
That's
usually.
still pretty wild to me. They can take a year off per child and pretty much have 3 years off and still pretty much come back to it. Be okay to come back to have a job.
Mhm.
Wow, amazing. So we have God Happened to Me in the room. Good evening, God Happened to Me. Thanks for joining. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Um, all right. So kind of just moving along. So I actually found the conversation that we had last week. Um, and let's see. Here we go.
So I think I made the rebuttal of like, because you were saying how we, like, companies usually need to take into factor, like you were saying that, women will tend to need to take more time off or they need to take into factor that they're going to get pregnant if they choose. So that goes into consideration when it comes to factoring their salary, their compensation.
Well, not
And
really.
then,
It doesn't really
go
come
ahead.
into factoring their salary. What happens is if you have 365 days a year to make money, and whatever you make in that 365 days, that's what gets reported. So if all these women collectively are taking all this collective amount of time off in comparison to men who typically don't take as much time off as women do, and that's now compared to what all the men have made at the end of the year, then yes, women are going to say that there's a wage gap. but there really isn't. But that isn't the only factor that factors into the wage gap. It also factors in the type of jobs that women tend to fill and the type of jobs that men tend to fill. So, as we spoke about before, men tend to fill the more dangerous jobs, the jobs that are more laborious, and they will work more paid hours, which is um, an important piece of information to put out there. Women they also won't work as many paid. Actually, they'll work the same amount of hours, but then they'll also work hours that aren't paid. So not smart. Not saying women aren't smart, but it just isn't a smart way to go about it.
Smart decision. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but I cut you off. Please go ahead.
Ah, I don't remember.
It's okay. So I have my conversation, our conversation up here. I'm just looking at it below. Um,
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm not going to talk
I think
about.
I made a rebuttal about so, so I mean you make some very valid points, but I think one of the things I said was so just because like so obviously like we make the decision to have kids, but if we're gonna talk about, our monthly cycles, those are kind of things that are a little bit out of our control,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes and no.
it almost feels a little like women do tend to um, get less of a deal because we have other factors that are just kind of that we have to face.
I'm going to steal a line from the late great Kevin Samuels. You got to take that up with your creator. I mean, that you. I mean, that's nothing we can do. We can't help you with that. We didn't make it that
Well,
way.
we can't help that either.
That's just the way your biology is. We can't change your biology,
Right.
and you can't fight your biology. It is what it is. It's set in stone. So therefore, like I said, companies know that these are factors they have to take into account. You know, unfortunately, because as we're talking about before, there are, geez, I'm forgetting my terms here, not double-edged sword, but the term I used with you that took me a while to figure out last time too. um, Jesus.
You did it. Um, so what would you say then, like, do you feel that companies are equal in the sense of um,
Is my
if a
camera
woman, you
my
are
camera
there,
flipping out for
yeah.
you? Yeah. Hold on. Let me second. Keep going. Let me see if I can fix this. Go ahead.
Sure. So do you think like companies are equal in the sense that let's say a woman decides that she can't or decides to not have kids and she works just as hard as a male, bringing in just as much money. Do you feel that the um, promotions and wages are equal?
Yeah, I do. For the most part. So you also have to take into account um, when you go for a job, at least down here in the US, basically, depending on the job that you're going for, they have a range of what they're willing to pay you. And sometimes that'll be stated in the job application when you're filling that out, and sometimes it won't. So, what employers want to do is they want to figure out what you think you are worth to them, and then they want to play a negotiation game. Now, I have heard the statistics that women will typically just take what is offered to them. They typically won't fight for a higher wage, or they'll go in with a number in mind and ask that number, and they get that number thinking that I won, you know? But a
Mhm.
man typically will, haggle back and forth. They'll make a deal, be like, is that the best you can do? I mean, I'm bringing X, Y, and Z to the plate. This is why I'm going to be a benefit to your company. So this is why I think I deserve X amount. And even after they do close on that initial deal, they'll actually bargain for other promotions on the road, like performance promotions. A year into their tenure there, they might say, if I meet this criteria, then I'm gonna expect a bonus or a pay raise or what have you. So that
Mhm.
plays a factor into it. But that's just the game that business plays as well.
very fair. And I do feel like, why do you think women are more willing to accept or just give out a number and accept that versus men negotiating? Like, do you feel that like the negotiation part of it is more natural to men? And how come like women don't learn that as well?
Once again, I'm going to say it goes back to biology. It's going to go back to that, the whole hunter gatherer, where men had to go out and hunt the food and bring it back. And who they bring it back to? That's your cue to answer that. They're bringing it back to the wife and the children. And is the wife going to say like this woolly mammoth you brought back or this saber-tooth tiger isn't good enough? Go get a bigger one. No, they're going to make do with what they had because they're not going to go out there and get it for themselves, are they? So, like I
Yeah,
said,
but I
there,
mean,
there are
but things
some.
have changed. Obviously, you can't always go back to like. I mean, I understand the logic. However, as we go on and we know, like, we are having these debates between, people who think that there's this wage gap. But like, okay, so how do we close that? How do we make sure? How do we get those people who think there's a wage gap to think, oh no, there isn't. I just need to do X, Y, and Z.
How do we get to tell them that there actually isn't a wage gap? How do we teach them that, you're asking?
Yeah, like, hey, there's not a wage gap, but you just need to know how to do this. So this is how you do that. Like, you would think like as we evolve, we should, women are becoming, I would say, more warriors too.
Okay.
So why don't they go out and negotiate? Like,
So here's the thing. They just don't want to. Some do. Some definitely do. Some of them are fighters, but most aren't taught to do that. Now, they'd have to go against their programming, basically, to want more and to fight for more. And let me ask you, when you went for your job that you have now, how much negotiating did you do for your wage? Or was this like, this is what we're paying, do you want the job or not?
they they did offer me a little bit more, but I didn't fight on them.
You didn't fight them for it.
No.
So basically, let's just use round numbers here. We'll say that you came in expecting to make 45,000 a year. I don't know what you're making. And they were like, we'll give you 50. And you're like, oh man, that's 5,000 more than I actually wanted. So you're thinking you got a bargain. And that's where
Mhm.
most people will stop because that's the game that the companies will play. They'll placate you like that. They're like, oh man, we'll give them a little bit extra, thinking they're getting extra, but we actually have a lot more over here that we could have given them. And that lot more over here, typically a man's gonna say, is that the best you can do? It's only 5,000. Here are my references. Here's my resume or a CV for up there where you live, I guess. And so I worked here for X amount
Same.
of years, and I brought this kind of change and progress from the companies before, and I was able to contribute 5 to 10% growth on the bottom line. But as you can just see, as you just stated, you were offered a little carrot of $5,000, and you took it without fighting for it, without even balking back at that. So I'll give you an example. The job I have now, like I said, there was a pay range. I forget what the pay range was, and I was going through a recruiter at the time, and they told me how much are you looking to make, and in my head I'm saying that's a dumb question because if I could actually say I want a blank check, basically saying I want $1 million a year, I would definitely ask for $1 million a year. But I asked them, what is the ceiling on this job as far as pay? They told me what the ceiling was, and I was like, that's what I want. So they went back to the employer and they were like, hey, he's asking for this. She came back to me and she said, all right, you got it. And I was like, good. Because what's the harm in asking for more? They're just going to tell you no.
Mhm.
But if you don't ask for more, you're not going to get that more. So if you switch jobs at any time, in the future, ask for more. There's no harm in that. The worst they're going to tell you is no. Don't be don't be happy with what they're giving you. Ask for more. You gotta dig down deep and find that inner warrior and tell them, look, I know you guys can do better. And here's what I'm going to bring to you and bring to the company. Here's what I'm going to do for you. You got to, and that's part of selling yourself. But
Mm.
and I think this goes back to women, beautiful people and women, where they don't have to more or less play these games. Well, I wouldn't say games, but participate in this type of culture. Um, because, as I said, things are typically kind of given to them. So when things are given to them, there's no need. They don't build up that wait, that experience of
Mhm.
having to fight for anything. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So later on in life, that's a skill that they didn't. It's like a muscle. If you don't work it out, it's gonna atrophy. It's not gonna become a big muscle on
Yeah, I was just gonna actually say that, like, as I get older, because I know we did talk about, um, I think one of the questions was, is it harder for women to stay attractive than it is for men to be successful? I think that was one of the questions that we
you.
were talking about.
Because there.
Um,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, as we get older, we're now fighting like new things, so because we don't have that skill that we've
N-
built up.
New things or new 18-year-olds.
Well, let's say for, let's say for me, like um, I'm 37 years old, and I'm finding like I need to like the expectations for me are are different compared to when they were when I was 20, right? So, but what we're saying is because if I just had things given to me at 20 years old, I never grew up um, with the experience or the skills to be able to negotiate as a 37-year-old to go get what I want from the company or from anything.
Mhm. Did anyone coach you before you went for this job?
No,
Your husband didn't give you any pointers or try to coach you?
no.
No, nothing. Okay.
I mean, they did tell me. I did have a friend tell me, like, just go ask for a ludicrous number and see what they come back with.
Hmm.
It would work for him, but I mean, I don't know. Like for me, I guess for me personally, and I know some other women do feel this way, whereas I'm not sure about, you know, compared to other women, but I was still in school. I was, just about graduating. So I was still a beginner with my experience. Um, so I felt, okay, well, this is still more than what I was making. And then they gave me one offer, and when they gave me by the time they gave me my employment offer, they actually upped it even more. So to me, I just felt like, okay, I'm not deserving of this number yet. I need to prove to them that I am worth this number, but I need to do X, Y, and Z first. Like, so for me, that's why I'm not good at all with negotiations.
I hear what you're saying, and I went through the same thing. Um, my dad actually was the one. So after I got laid off from my second to last job, it was an IT job, and I was without a job for about 8 or 9 months. And as I was applying for jobs, and he was like, I was telling him like, look, I'm applying for this job, it's paying this much, and this job, and it's paying that much. And he's like, well, when you get your interview, ask for more. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm worth more. Here's what I'm worth 50K. That's what I'm feeling. I'm worth right around here. I don't think I'm worth up here around the 70 to 80K. And he's
Mhm.
like, don't even worry about that. Just ask for what you want. And you know what? It worked. So I think it's invaluable to have someone in your corner with experience that can impart these ideas, and not just ideas, but there's wisdom that comes from people who are older than us, and it's up to us to be able to listen and understand when they're talking to us that it's lived wisdom, and sometimes it's as good or even better than gold. But people want to, do things their own way or be, stubborn or bullheaded about it. But for me in my life, it came to a point where I decided that I was going to stop being a stubborn person, a stubborn guy. Um, I would fight back as far as like what my parents would tell me is nothing, nothing wild. But I was like, I want to do it my own way. I want to live my life and figure things out for myself. And I eventually just got tired of banging my head into the wall. I'm like, what am I doing this for? I figured out that I was getting to the point they were telling me that I would get to, but they were giving me the shortcuts. And after I saw the whole picture of me wasting time, banging my head against the wall, and then finally getting there, it hit me, it clicked. And it said, if I can skip all this banging my head and fighting and take what they're telling me to and go around that and get to my goal faster at saving time, why am I doing this? So I think it's up to a lot of people to find someone who does have that knowledge and you can get that. Now, everyone isn't going to be able to find that person, but if you can, listen to them because it's going to help you leaps and bounds and it's going to pay its weight in gold.
I do agree with that. Actually, my director right now, she's been fighting for me in that corner in that sense. So in the last 2 years, she's helped me um, reach up. So basically, in the last 2 years, have I've been able to raise my salary by 20 grand
Nice.
because of her. Yeah. So
Impressive.
I agree with that. Like, definitely find your person, find that mentor, your dad or your director, or even just a friend who knows, who has that knowledge and can give that kind of advice to you.
Mhm. So I'm going to try to play a quick little presentation here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but let me know if you'll be able to hear it. If you can't hear it, we're just going to cut it short and we'll go back into our discussion.
Sure.
So let's see here.
Good morning, Hank. It's Tuesday.
It's not working tonight. Can you hear any of that?
$69 US Special Forces device turns men into beasts. This Marine Corps officer is bringing military technology to the...
No, you couldn't hear that?
No, I heard you start it, but I couldn't hear what was being said.
Okay. All right. We're going to skip that. Technical difficulties. We'll get that worked out next time. Using some new software here, so still learning the software. Apologies. All right. Let me just bring that back up. There we go. So back to our conversation at hand. I know you got to go here in the next about 20 minutes or so. So we'll be wrapping this up. So let's see. Did you have any other questions at the moment, Jackie?
No. I'm trying to think of what other questions we did talk about in our discussion.
Mm-hmm. We did speak about abortion. I'm not really trying to go into that. Kind of a downer subject.
Yeah.
And we spoke about, punishment and jail and such like that. We're asking with the abortion thing, how to fix, that situation and then our laws, which that was kind of an interesting part of our conversation. And I was going into as far as like, well, you said how we fix abortion?
Well, I think what we talked about was because of the whole Roe versus Wade being overturned. What I'm finding when it comes to government and politics is we are making decisions without really fully looking at every single thing, right? So, for an example, we're talking about electric vehicles and trying to reduce the greenhouse gases and all of that, right? Well, while it is a great idea and should we should work towards how to have a cleaner environment. How is that going to do? We don't have the infrastructure to accommodate our population for EVs, right? So, but has anyone really taken that into consideration? So, and it's the same with, mining for those batteries. So it's the same as, when we're talking about abortion. First of all, like, why was this even a topic? And if it was, let's say, one of the reasons they wanted to eliminate it was because the system was being abused and being used as a form of contraception, then we need to start coming up with a better plan than just eliminating it all. Because my understanding is no matter the circumstance, I'm not allowed to get an abortion if I were a U.S. citizen, right?
More or
Depending on
less.
what state. I know not all states brought that law in, but I think it was a majority of them. Most of the southern states did.
Mhm. Yeah. So as we spoke about, I think my opinion is I don't think it should be a law. I think that people should be able to get an abortion if that's what they want to do. But it should, I agree with you, it should not be used as a form of contraception. Now, if a state thinks that they want to, here's my solution. It shouldn't be illegal to do that. But just like if you go to any restaurant, they can choose not to serve you. So in that
Mm-hmm.
sense, they can pull those services out of their state, but not make it illegal. Because if you can't serve them there, they can still go somewhere else to do it. So why put that kind of legality to it?
Right, I agree with that. Like, I think, in this kind of circumstance, a lot needs to be taken into consideration as to why the woman's getting an abortion, how many has she had prior, because I know that can have an effect on it. How far along is she? So I think it should more or less not necessarily be even up to the governments to take that service away, but up to the doctors to see if it's safe to do that. And then they should make that decision medically, yes or no, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, here in America, there's nothing we can do to stop people from having babies. We,
No.
as the saying goes, their body, their choice. We can't force anyone to get castrated. We can't force anyone to rip out their innards. Nothing like that. It's not happening. At least 9 times soon that I can foresee. So, like I said, the only real recourse that I see states having, or that's you know somewhat humane, is just saying we're just not offering those services here. You have to find them somewhere else.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say a woman has decided to not have kids
Okay.
and this law is in effect, but the doctors won't perform the surgery to get her tubes tied. She's like, nope, I don't want kids. Obviously, birth control isn't 100%, and she gets pregnant. Like, what do you think? There's no, at that point, there's no kind of responsibility on doctors or the government or anything like that. It's just all up to us. Like, I'm kind of dropped by forgetting the question I am trying to ask.
It sounded like you were asking what should the woman do if she doesn't want to have a child, but she ends up pregnant, and doctors in the state are saying no, we're not offering.
Yeah, like let's say like so here in Canada, up until the age of 35, I'm not allowed to make the decision of getting my tubes tied. Even though I've made the decision to not have kids, I cannot legally do anything about it, or I have to try and find like a private doctor or some other doctor to do that for me. But if I were to go through my family doctor to even do any kind of preventative measures, or to say, no, I'm good, I don't want kids, I want to get my tubes tied just to solidify that, I'm not allowed to until I'm 35. but here, like we are allowed to have abortions. So like
What's
if my birth control fails me, then I have that option should I choose.
okay?
Right. So what I guess what I'm asking is like what is that even allowed in the States? Like if a 28-year-old woman were to go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I don't want to have any kids. Can I get my tubes tied?" Like, is that a thing? And if not, then they're really closing out women from being able to make any kind of decision on that part. You
Well,
know what I mean?
yeah, to the best of my knowledge, since I'm not a woman, um, as you can tell, I don't know that there's any type of far as age restriction on when you can't get your tubes tied. I think you can do it probably at any age that you decide to. Let me see here. So we have God happened to me. She's helping us out here. She said, "Women often feel like you have to prove our worth professionally," and then she says, "Yes, they are, but they will try to talk you out of it." So I
Mm,
guess she's saying you can get it done at any age, but they'll try to talk you out of it, basically. So,
mm.
land of the free, basically, you know?
So at least there is that option. I know, like, if I were there, if I was being told, no, I can't do this until I'm this age, and then any preventative care I do take fails me, then I'm kind of hooped, right? I can't do anything about that. But that's kind of like on the majority of the responsibility on the government telling me yes and no,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
we take on some of the responsibility. We knew that there was a risk going into that activity, but
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I mean, like, not saying directly to you, but people can expect to have someone else, or i.e., the government, come in and clean up your mess. Not calling a child a mess, but like as you just said, we know the consequences or the outcomes of what can happen from those type of activities. And then once those
mm,
activities happen, as long as they're consensual, like I want to make sure that's put out there.
yes,
you
yes.
you can't expect to have some magical parachute, you know. So
Hmm.
I I think it behooves a lot of people to do some pre-planning and some pre-thinking before they do these actions, because the way things are going, at least the way things are right now, it's very difficult to go and get that option, you know. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. God happened to me saying, especially if you haven't had children before, and you may face an insurance blockage of the tubal ligation is not medically necessary. I guess you said if the tubal ligation is not medically necessary. Ooh, that's over my head. I don't know much about that. Um,
Repeat that again.
she's saying, and you may face an insurance blockage if the tubal ligation is not medically necessary. So I guess
Mm,
insurance isn't going to pay for it if it isn't something that's like, you know, a health cause or a health concern.
yeah, I think I don't know for sure, but I think in Canada I could just go ahead and like schedule that surgery. Um, because it's
It
not
gets paid for.
technically like a yeah, like it's not a cosmetic surgery. So I think it's covered by my healthcare, but I see her point. Like for someone in the States, I could see how insurance would be like, yep, no, not paying for that. You're opting for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Insurance
fair.
tends to, yeah, they insurance tends to, I wouldn't say no to a lot of things, but it's funny. I was watching this short, and it was a doctor. Basically, he's a doctor, but he's playing both people. So he's playing a doctor and just a regular guy, and he's basically telling his friend that he has to refer to the insurance company to get an okay for the procedure to be done for whatever the patient needs. And then it is up to the insurance company to either say yes or no. So his friend that he's playing, the regular person, is basically saying, but you're the doctor with the medical years and the medical schooling who knows what this person needs, and it could be life-saving. But the person who's in insurance on the other side, who doesn't have this training and doesn't have this schooling, is able to tell you no. If I am I getting that right? He's like, uh, yeah. And it's kind of a back and forth because that's how
Mhm.
insurance is here in America, where your physician can be saying you need this procedure, you need this this medication, but the insurance is saying no, we're not covering it. So basically, your insurance can supersede your doctor, and even if you're telling the doctor no, I mean, you can still go ahead and get it done, but then you face the real consequence of then going into financial bankruptcy. Because that one procedure,
Mm.
a lot of times in America, one procedure can make you bankrupt.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Um, I've actually recently just kind of experienced something similar. Um, it's unfortunate that insurance companies kind of tell you what you can and cannot be insured for. You know, for instance, for me, like I was diagnosed with diabetes, and um, I've been struggling with that part. So I went and got prescribed the Freestyle Libre, which tells me my sugar levels in real time.
Hmm.
But my own insurance wouldn't even cover it. My husband's insurance would only cover for 1 month.
Wow.
So in order for me to do any kind of preventative care or help keep my health at bay, having these extra things that can make it easier for me um, is more like a nice to have, right?
Yeah.
So it's I find it ridiculous that it's like it's my body is not allowing me to produce enough insulin to keep my sugar levels at bay, but obviously everyone struggles with eating.
Hmm.
So how is a diabetic person supposed to really truly understand how their eating habits affect them if they can't have such devices to help show them in real time what it's doing to their body, right? Like for me, I don't get my blood taken until like every 3 months. So what I think I'm doing well, I might not be at all. So yeah, it is frustrating to see that insurance companies have that final say, especially over um, an expert in that field.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be fixed, in my opinion. Just
Hmm.
someone who doesn't have a medical degree, who didn't go to any medical school, is able to make life altering decisions for people. That's
Hmm.
irresponsible, and I think it's actually was a medical malpractice is what the guy was saying in his little short. Um, but ultimately illegal, but it's legal because it's an insurance company. But
Right. Yeah. So I agree. Like that needs to get fixed. And then I know you were talking about like the welfare programs also need to be fixed. We need to start creating programs to help um, the citizens get back up on their feet.
right, I
And
I believe that there should be some sort of program in place where people are told, like, look, all right, you're going on welfare, you're going on government assistance, but just like at least for me, when I was laid off, I had to apply for a job, sorry, at least 3 jobs a week in order to get my unemployment check every week. And I had to go to a workshop as well, like a resume workshop. And I think there's one other thing I had to do. I forget what it was now. And that's just in order to get paid, so I could live. Now, I've been working at that job for 11 years, so it's not like I didn't want to work, but it was also kind of insulting, saying like, all right, there's a time limit on how much money you're going to get over the course of this time, and in order to keep on
mhm,
getting it, you have to be actively doing something as far as actually looking for a job, so you can stop taking the money that you actually paid in to get.
mhm,
But then we have folks that that are on government assistance, and they think of that as a way of living, and the government allows it to happen. Now, like I said, as to the best way in my mind to fix that is structure almost the same way. You have to be showing some sort of you're doing some kind of work to better yourself, but there also has to be programs in place for those people to be able to better themselves, and job opportunities for them to be able to better themselves as well. Just sitting at home collecting a check, there has to be some sort of like, once again, recourse that they know is down the pike if you don't get it together. You got to work on it and get
Mhm.
yourself together to become we call it a citizen that a productive citizen. There we go. You know, but like I said, people they just use it as a check. You know, they can get their the WIC money or WIC check, which is the milk and bread and the essentials basically, and then they get
Yeah.
the how. Matter of fact, quick story. I once knew this lady. She I think she had a full time job. She had a boyfriend who I believe had a full time job, and she was on government assistance, and she had a townhouse, and she was paying $300 a month for her townhouse, and she also had kids as well. They were in their teens, like early to mid teens, and and she just bought two new cars, two new Kias, one for him, one for her. But he wasn't anywhere in the paperwork, nothing like that. So that was a whole nother income coming in. But because there was no one or no type of uh, government uh, losing my words. No, there's no government office, what we want to call it, in effect to be checking up on these people to say, are you working to better yourself to get yourself off of this assistance? They were able to more or less scam the system. I'm sure this happens hundreds of thousands of times throughout our country, at least, because there's no one checking up on them. So, and on top of that,
So
it's
for
kind of go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, for your when you I don't know what you guys call it, like your employment insurance, when you were laid off and you applied for this program to help you, keep getting income until you found a job. Was there a time limit as to how long you were getting those payments for?
If I remember correctly, there was not a time limit, but there was a um, money limit, I guess you'd say. There was a there was a
Mm,
there was a pot of money that you're pulling from. As basically said, this
right.
pot of money at the rate, or at least at the amount that you can take out of it, is only going to last you until this month. You know, not this month, but whatever X month is.
Right. Right.
And it wasn't even a full year.
Okay. So I know for us, like, so we call it employment insurance, so EI. Um, so when I left my job in 2019, I was able to apply for EI um, until I was able to find another job if I could. Um, but I was only allowed on it for like 36 weeks. Like they gave me a time limit. I know some people can get up to 52 or 54 weeks. It kind of depends on, again, kind of like the maternity leave for us. You have to be working so many hours or so many um, weeks or years to get like an extended amount to be able to be on that program. But that ultimately that program does end. They do stop your funding. So after that's over, you're not getting anything else from the government. You can reapply again and just kind of see, but at that point you are forced to go look and find a new job. Otherwise you're now running on arrears with your bills.
Right. But so for us, I think it was about you get about 60 to 80% of what your paycheck was. Is that the
Mhm.
same for you?
Yeah, I think we get about 80% of what our pay was.
Okay.
Maybe it's about the same.
But you can more or less choose the amount of time that you want it for.
No, they told me how much time I got.
Oh, let's see. Is it based off your your previous tenure at all?
Yeah, based on how much I've put in, have I made other um, like requests before? So from that time that if I've made it, let's say 5 years ago, let's say I put a request in to get EI, and then my payment stopped, got a new job, I would have to put in another year or so to top up in order to reapply again and get the same amount.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Well,
So
Jackie,
that could be like a form of making the plan of like, okay, you got X amount of time, and like you said, add in those extras, like, okay, you're gonna take this class, and you gotta show me proof that you're gonna do this. No, we do have to show proof, but only if they request to see it.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show tonight, Jackie. Did you have any other questions about the wage gap before we call it a night? Because I'm coming down with something. I'm starting to get sick. I can feel it in my throat. So
Oh no.
yeah.
No other questions for me. Everything we've discussed, it absolutely makes sense. We just have to know our worth, I guess, and not be picky.
Knowing your worth is definitely a part of it, but it's also fighting for what you want, and just don't assume
Yeah.
that things can be placed into your lap, which a lot of pretty people have privy to that. It's called pretty privilege. Things just placed into their lap, where us normally have to
Yeah.
work extra hard for it. So,
Yep. I agree.
yep. For everyone, we'll be calling it there for the night. Thanks for tuning in. If you tuned in live, if you're catching this on the replay, also thanks for catching the replay. Hit that like button and subscribe. And we'll be coming at you guys with more content here in the future. Like I said, I think I'm starting to get a sore throat, so cutting this a little short. And working with some new software, so things with me coming out pretty regularly. Hopefully, at least after I get over what I'm get going through right now. And just stay tuned. So, with that, we'll be ending the show. Thanks, guys.
Let's get it. I gotta let them understand who I is. Not that many